Would you believe us if we told you that you had viruses living within your body? What if we told you these viruses were bonded to your DNA so much that you will end up passing them on to your children? What if we told you there's no drug you could take to correct this? Welcome back to Daily Dosage, and today we have something rather odd and mysterious, yet interesting to share with you. Evolutionists have tried to find an answer to and explain why the Earth and the things within it are the way they are. When it comes to living things, this has been done by comparing living organisms to fossils that are the closest to them. In doing this, many discoveries were made which were profound at the time. For example, mammals are believed to have evolved from reptiles called synapsids about 310 to 275 million years ago, and with some eventually developing hair to help them regulate their body temperatures. Humans are also believed to at a point walk on all fours, and all organisms are also thought to have at one point evolved from a single cellular organism. These might seem far-fetched, but based on available evidence being examined by scientists, these hypotheses can be described as the most logical option. The evolutionary perspective when it comes to identifying and explaining things of the past, as well as predicting possible future development of living things, is done through genetics and natural selection. One microbe thought to have adversely affected living organisms are viruses. If the COVID-19 pandemic has taught the world anything, it is that viruses are really bad news. Thousands have lost their lives, and some of those who recovered from the viral disease still have side effects. The current pandemic is, however, not the first time that the human species has had to deal with viruses. For example, the 2014 to 2016 Ebola outbreak in West Africa killed up to 90% of those who were unfortunate enough to be infected with it. The infectious nature of the virus allowed it to spread quickly and take many lives. Another virus as equally dangerous as Ebola is the Marburg virus, which was discovered in 1967. The virus caused high fevers and bleeding throughout the body of the host, which could lead to organ failure, shock, and death. The Democratic Republic of Congo had an outbreak in 1998 to 2000, which saw more than an 80% mortality rate. Modern healthcare has attempted to deal with this challenge and has succeeded in introducing vaccines that have reduced the incidence of diseases associated with viruses and antiviral drugs to control infections. A major achievement in the fight against viruses is the fact that we have succeeded in eradicating the likes of smallpox. Looking at what viruses do to living organisms, at this point, it should be quite clear how deadly they are. Evolutionists believe that viruses have succeeded in killing significant numbers of mammals throughout history. Humans and primates are no exception. If this is true, why then do we have ancient viruses in our genome? Why do they account for more than 1,000 genetic fragments cut out of a total number of approximately 2.9 billion base pairs in our genome? Why do some of these ancient viruses have important physiological functions? If these viruses were passed on to us at birth and we're going to pass them on to our children, are they safe? The main question, however, is this: how did these viruses get there? What are their functions in our body? Why is this phenomenon popular among mammals, especially between humans and primates? The evolutionists have an answer for us. Evolutionists have discovered that these are ancient viruses that have stored away in our DNA as a means to survive over the years. These viruses are officially called endogenous retroviruses. They are called endogenous because they are able to fully become a part of the host organism's DNA and are notorious for reverse transcribing their genomes into a host's DNA. This means that they are able to insert their genes directly into their hosts. The endogenous viruses found in humans are referred to as the human endogenous retroviruses, or HERVs for short. Their attachment into the host's DNA is so flawless that they actually trick the native cells into believing they are part of them, and the cells, when reproducing, do so with these retroviruses. In simpler terms, we can say that they replicate themselves within the host. Simply put, they go viral. Take a breather here and think about it. As if this is not a lot to take in already, in 2016, scientists at Stanford University, US, uncovered new scientific evidence that could mean that the viruses did not just attach themselves to the genetic makeup of humans. They also became catalysts and drivers for human evolution. Mind blown. The study analyzed about 1,300 virus-interacting proteins out of 9,900 conserved and sequenced mammalian genomes. They realized that viruses used the more evolutionary constrained proteins within the cellular functions they interact with, and that despite this high constraint, virus-interacting proteins accounted for a high proportion of all protein adaptation in humans and other mammals. They estimated that the viruses alone were responsible for about 30% of protein adaptations in humans. This made the scientists conclude that viruses are important drivers of evolutionary change in humans and other mammalian species. The study made it clear that there exists a virus-fighting protein in humans and other primates that may have sped up the evolution of these species by triggering an explosion in genetic mutations. The retrovirus making its way to a sperm cell or egg cell makes it possible for it to be passed on to its offspring. For the most part, this is how retroviruses were passed on, and the mutations could either be harmful, neutral, or beneficial. The virus genes become extra materials for evolution to experiment with, and the virus itself could develop new functions that could sometimes be utilized by organisms. For example, evolutionists believe that an ancient mammal, which is an ancestor to primates and essentially humans, was once affected by a virus. This virus had a mechanism that allowed it to attach itself to a host cell. This mechanism was then adopted by most mammals, which allowed their offspring to be attached to their placentas, and it became a core part of reproduction for these mammals. Since then, mammals have evolved to the stage where they can no longer reproduce without this mutation. If evolution is to be believed, how were mammals reproducing then? There is also the HERVK, which is considered one of the helpful retroviruses. It is believed that this retrovirus helps embryos develop a built-in immune system that keeps them safe from pathogens in the outside world, even before they develop antibodies for them. It works in conjunction with a protein called REC to infect other cells, which sounds bad, but triggers the embryonic cells to start making antiviral proteins that serve as protection for the embryo. Even as fully grown adults, some research findings suggest that our immune system pathways depend on enzymes created by retroviruses. Yes, you heard that right. What if we told you that retroviruses even have something to do with your memories? We are all aware that the brain helps us encode, store, and retrieve memories. This is, however, done by a complex procedure involving neurons and the transmission of signals across synapses. It was discovered in a study that activity-regulated cytoskeletal protein, or ARC, plays a major role in achieving this. The study compared mice that had normal levels of the ARC protein and those that were deficient. It was discovered from the study that mice that were ARC deficient were capable of learning but incapable of retaining the memories. This proved that ARC had something to do with memory. Further studies proved that ARC behaved like the retrovirus HIV and kept infecting the cells. Based on the findings of the studies, the lead researcher Jason Shepard, an associate professor of neurobiology at the University of Utah Medical School, believed that ARC was critical to the brain's conversion of memories from short-term to long-term storage. This means that our ability to form memories might have been initiated by this virus. This is yet another ability that we find out a virus is probably responsible. There is no way our species could have evolved this much if we couldn't remember anything. The same can be said for other mammals. BANCR is another endogenous virus that has only a positive effect on humans. A researcher named Wilson and his team discovered BANCR in human fetal heart muscle cells and that of other primates. These human fetal heart muscle cells are also called cardiomyocytes, and they are responsible for our heartbeats through concentrated contraction. Its presence in the cardiomyocytes suggested it was important for heart development. This was proved when cardiomyocytes were introduced into mice and rats who do not naturally have it. The researchers discovered that introducing the retrovirus into the mice and rats enlarged and dilated their hearts. This, according to the researchers, suggested that specific retroviruses allowed us to grow larger hearts and bodies in the course of evolution. Considering the fact the viral history of endogenous retroviruses and the fact that they are an official part of our DNA, It is important to ask if they are still potent, that is, if they have the ability to start creating viruses and harm mammals. Scientists wondered the same and experimented to find out. By incubating human cells in petri dishes, scientists mutated the DNA of one of the endogenous retroviruses to see if it was potent and if it could still produce viruses. Can you guess what happened? Yup, it did become active once more and started producing viruses. The human endogenous retroviruses, HERVs for short, seem to have played a significant role in the evolution of humans. We are still learning and discovering more of these retroviruses, the kinds of mutations they could have caused, and how they probably helped us as a species evolve to this point. We are not sure how harmful they were thousands of years ago, but for now, we can almost say that they paved the way for us to become what we are now, assuming that you agree with the evolutionist perspective of things. The next time a virus is mentioned, perhaps you should be worried and scared, especially if it sounds something like COVID-19. However, we have learned today that not all viruses are evil, which is both confusing and conflicting. We have established that quite a number of them might be responsible for the good features we have over other species, but this is something we ought to dig more into. If you've been on this channel for a while, then you should have come across our human evolution video by now. If not, click on the link at the top right corner to watch it. Till next time!